All right, out of the green room and into the being seen room. Welcome, everybody. This is Thursday night Star Chat. I'm your host, David Wallace. Tonight we have my good friend Nathan on and my wonderful friend Lowell Johnson. Our friend Robyn is busy and she'll be popping on later as soon as she can. And then we'll be able to receive some of her specific wisdom, kindness, love, and humor. And we love having Robyn in the circle here because it's three guys, and we definitely need to have that beautiful, sacred, feminine spirit to help us balance out our macho bullshit. Welcome, everybody, to Star Chat. We were going to talk about some crop circles. We were going to talk about some things that were important to us. Nathan and I have been doing some research about flight MH370, the flight that disappeared in Malaysia 10 years ago. The anniversary Nathan brought up was 10 years ago tomorrow. And Nathan's putting together an information package about that. Should be very interesting. We could talk about that at another time. We were going to talk about crop circles further, and we've been doing some research about crop circles, and we've been doing some research about sound recording theft in digitized printed patterns in a binary code. We've been talking about putting together some more information about how there's similarities between things that exist here on Earth and crop circles, and perhaps turning those into three-dimensional images or tool components or components to a magical machine. We're going to go forward, though, because just as I sat down and I was watching my friends have a chat, I realized that it's really important that we sit down for a few minutes today and we talk about contact. And this isn't contact of the first, second, third, or fourth, or fifth kind. And we are not members of the CE5 tribe. I am pretty sure that standing in the desert with the pen light or a little laser and flicking it around the stars is meaningless. And what we want to do is use the light from within us. We want to use the light that our soul generates. We want to use the light that comes from our hearts. And when we connect our heart and our mind, then we are of like-minded with other people who understand, pardon me, the nature of their hearts. So we generate a light that comes from our very spirit, pardon me. That light begins very, very low, starting as a connection point between your feet and your first chakra, second, third, fourth, and fifth chakra, your heart chakra, your throat chakra, here, and the seventh crown chakra. And this light is something that exists deep within you, whether you realize it or not. When you are excited and full of joy, when something happens to you that makes you really excited or really, really happy, that light brightens. And some people see it as an aura. Some other people see it as your connective conduit to Gaia. We keep our feet on the ground and we keep our head in the stars. But there's another type of light that's seen by them. When I say them, I'm referring to our friends who exist in outer space in interstellar conveyance. Many of the species that live above the Earth in deep stellar space live on their crafts. Their crafts are quite large. There's been some fascinating stuff coming up where people are showing evidence of very, very large crafts. I myself have shown a bit of that, and I've always pursued speaking to other people who are direct contactee about their experience with large crafts and seeing them. When you travel great distances in space, no matter how good your technology, remember that space is still space. And if we are to agree that people from other worlds are biological in 99% of their form, then they're going to probably suffer from some of the things that human beings suffer from in outer space, whether that's a gamma radiation pulse or a shower of radioactive particles, a plasma burst from a star. All of these things can be very dangerous in the rigors of deep stellar space. So we have to think about their corporeal being. We have to think about their evolutionary process. And we must always try and put ourselves in the other person's shoes, as it were. So when we are on the planet Earth and we are generating light, and there's people that can feel and recognize the light, and they use that to heal others in the form of being a light worker. There are light workers that communicate to spirits in the sky, the holy people that live above us, to God and to the heavens. But that personal light that you have, that you generate, is something that I want to bring forward to the table a little bit. And I'm going to ask Lowell to describe what it's like to me, what his experience is like when he discovered this divine light, which I think was probably seen by the people of Telos. And Lowell now takes photographs of amazing light showers and rainbow lights that dance all around, including vortices up in the sky. Lowell, do you sense that divine light that all of us carry?
It's that sixth sense that we grew up on. We didn't understand. Somebody put that term out there, and I really had nothing to associate it with until whatever this change in energy, whatever um, light is inside of me, it's to me, it's got form now. I see it. It's like you can see and sense your aura, but in order to do that, you have to be able to kind of reach into, the ethers. I just keep coming back to, if you have a full comprehension of dimensionality and your association with it vibrationally, you'll begin to explore these things, be aware of them because they're here. You just have to raise your vibration to match the stuff that's around you. And seeing how
Beautiful.
we're going down this rabbit hole, I'll just say this one thing. In the last week, these ethers have thinned out even more. I'm sensing the changes in dimensionality here in this physical place that historically would, in my mind, the vibrational conditions aren't right. To me, it just here is more evidence that the veil is being thinned out. And
Right.
to me, it tells me two things. One, here comes the shift because all the conditions are right. And two, it's just a matter of time when we're really done with this freaking third density crap.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm
I guess we'll know when we're done when the shift hits the fan. Sorry, I had to say that.
well,
Sorry.
this the shift has definitely hit the fan, brother. The divine light that exists within all of us grows. I myself know exactly what Lowell was talking about because he and I had been discussing the very powerful and very unusual energy peaks and troughs of February. This was an accumulation of many things. Last week, I felt a lot of sadness and I felt a lot of pain in one particular point at early in the morning. And so it was not a good time to communicate with other people because it was what I was feeling. And these are things that pass through us. Part of it is the way I associate with my own mentality, because I have my moments where I'm not necessarily lucid and I can say things that are not necessarily in line with what everyone wants to hear. And that's because I'm not being mindful of spirit and not being mindful of universal law. And it's okay to fall from grace every once in a while and forget who we are. Momentarily, I don't think anybody was beyond feeling this wave. And I realized that it wasn't a wave from the universe that was passing around the planet. What it was, I'm very clear on what I was able to feel. What it was a lot of the anguish, a lot of the anger, a lot of the pain that human beings are producing right now, because that's also part of the waking up process, is releasing these feelings. And where do these feelings go? They don't necessarily just disappear once they leave your body, because thoughts are things. Your body already knows those universal laws. If you feel something, you're actually feeling it. And when you release something or it passes through you, that feeling or that wave of energy from humanity travels around the planet like a circle or a cycle. It eventually dissipates, but it is an energy form. So I understand how people who are light workers, people who are healers, people who are able to apply the science of communication have all felt this. And some of them were the recipient of it rather than someone who was going to accept these things and let it pass through them. Some of these people were just like walls and became recipients of these feelings. I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that whatever that cycle was that passed through us, it wasn't necessarily something that identifies us. It's just something that we're going through as a species. It was a small facet of what we're seeing. The small facet is one of many, many millions of emotional and intellectual facets that our soul can feel that we're trying to pass along. It's like a birthing process, whether you're giving birth to yourself and you're going through the pains of birth, or what you've given birth to will travel away from you and eventually turn into something else. So I want to wish that all of the feelings and all the anguish and all the suffering and the sadness that humanity has gone through in the last month, I see them being released up to heaven. I see those feelings being released as a form of light into deep space where it can cause no harm, and it just being sort of a collective sigh of humanity. We are moving
Doesn't it
forward.
seem like a karmic load's been relieved? It
But
seems like that was the
yes.
dissolution that took place, or however you want to see your karmic load being cut. What you're saying, that's how it hits me. And it definitely feels that way because we've been going through these energetic roller coaster rides, but more of them are on the accelerated line now. It's more downhill. We spent a lot of time getting uphill to understand what's coming in front of us. Now we're just hanging on for dear life as these changes that we used to think we were assimilating, we're beginning to acclimate ourselves to these changes. I can't shake this dimensional access I have. I told you 2 weeks ago when it first began, it freaked me out because I couldn't stop it. Well, now I drift in and out of there more often, and I'm just waiting for the rest of you to tell me that you're doing the same thing.
Yes, that's such a lovely observation and a great metaphor as a karmic exchange and a karmic release. And it's exactly that type of energy that we're finally able to recognize amongst ourselves and be able to sit down and talk about it with some coherence and with some sort of plaintive logic. Because I'm not a healer, really, and I'm not a this and I'm not a that, but I am a translator. I've been given gifts of translation. I give myself my own divine gifts. I don't receive divine gifts. I allow myself to accept them because the divine gifts are part of us anyways. All we have to do is admit that these things exist and make that decision about whether we want to partake in those gifts. Remember that there's bad gifts too. Remember several weeks ago or a month ago, I talked about sugar-coated words that make us feel good but are actually poisonous. And it's sort of the same thing. You have to identify the gifts and the love that you have and nourish those things. And I knew there was no guru bullshit, and there wasn't any, adept that I was going to use as a scope to identify why I was behaving a certain way or why I was feeling something, because it really existed. It was reality, and I felt a lot of pain. And I think that if I was a healer, I probably would have been able to recognize that a little bit sooner. But because I'm a translator, I had to wait for those feelings to wash over me, to pass through me, and then look at them and go, "Oh my goodness!" And you know what? I was part of the problem. There was things. Remember the crap I went through before I picked up all the trash off the beach and the crap of all that. And so it was like this thing that was building up, and then it just went and released. And it was really nice to be part of that experience. So the way I translated that experience is the way it made me feel and the way it made me react to other people that are in my life. And I really was caught off guard because I like to think of myself as being someone who's balanced. But early in the morning when I'm coming out of lucid sleep, instead of waking up feeling, Mr. Happy Chappy, I felt like crap. And I felt like this huge wave of shit had just blown over me. And, Nathan was going through something too. And I think it's time to say goodbye to those feelings because it's just a memory now. But we have to become better and better at recognizing these changes as Gaia goes forward into the fourth dimension. She has her own program. And if we're going to stay connected to the Great Mother, then we have to inculcate joy. We have to produce things that make ourselves happy so that we can be happy for others and then share that bliss and share that happiness of divine love, divine light, following the recommendations of Gaia, which is to not hurt her, to protect all the children and the animals, protect the tree and the water sources, to protect all the beautiful life forms. And one of the simplest ways to do that, show that type of that responsibility that we have, is to respect Gaia and to respect our life, but also joy. Remember, many months ago, Lowell and I had been going back and forth about talking about what we can do to raise our vibrations. And it sort of came up with the idea that there's really no rheostat. You can't just turn it up. You can't go to somebody who's terribly depressed and, suffering from some emotional problem and just say, oh, it's okay. Just turn up your dial and everything will be fine. But we have a rheostat in our hearts, don't we? We have a rheostat in our soul, and it activates when we're doing something that produces joy and love for other people and for ourselves. Remember to love yourself. And everybody out there is special, special, dear, dear souls. And when you stop for a moment and go, I am really worth it. I'm a wonderful human being, and I try as hard as I can every day to be wonderful. That activates that joy, because we have to stay joyous in order to be part of the joy and the love and the future life energy that's moving forward with Gaia, because I choose to be connected to Gaia. And with the great changes that are coming to our planet, I'd like to think that I can sit and watch them happen and be part of the passing. It'll be like a giant adventure movie. And then we all sort of go forward, and things will actually be a lot better, because there's a lot of plans that are coming our way from both celestial bodies, from spirit guides, from people from other worlds, that are going to help support the transition of Gaia into a future without radioactive pollution, into a future without chromium in all the water sources, in a future without, diesel oil spills all over the sand. And we're coming into this beautiful point now where those things will no longer happen. And we have to embrace the great change that's before us. And there's a lot of people that are out there right now talking about change. We have to be savvy to make sure that we're not listening to some sort of sugar-coated message that is actually laden with something else. Your heart will guide you. And it's like Lowell and I have been following the sun for quite a while. And when we watch the sun, we know that right now it's in the summertime, it's like a white diamond. And you go out in the sun for 20 or 30 minutes and you start to get a sunburn. But back in the 70s, when Lowell and I were younger, we could be out in the sun working all day, and it takes 12 hours to get a sunburn, and we'd always end up with a nice red brown tan the next day, and it didn't burn. Well, the sun's changed, everybody. The sun is putting out a different type of light, and it's also a type of light that Gaia is receiving. She knows that the sun is going to go through major changes, and it's also a signal to all the animals to get ready. And we are also an animal. So as these sun changes occur all around us, and the earthquakes and the thinning of our electromagnetism around the earth, the magnetosphere is thinned and it's weakened quite a bit. So we're feeling more geomagnetic storms. There's been more detrimental effects from plasma radiation releases from the sun's surface, which cause earthquakes, which cause all sorts of disruptions in our technology. But more importantly, they cause disruptions with the electrochemical balance in the health of our minds. And being a person that is working on keeping their vibration high, that will help combat some of the negative effects that are occurring from the sun. There was an enormous amount of X-class flares last month, more than I've ever seen in 1 month. And I've been following the sun closely now since 2013. And I'm telling you, it's changed. Even in 2013, it was still kind of yellow. Now it's kind of white. You kind of know what I'm talking about there, Lowell?
I do. I've been paying attention to it for the last few years. The cosmic orientation of things was one of the first rabbit holes I went down. And it was where science actually started helping me form um, what changes are going through us because they recognize this elevated photon belt around the central sun. And when they could understand the cycles of that phenomenon and then how it affected everything in its path, then it put our little solar system into perspective for me to understand how that energy changed all sentient life. And when we feel the vibratory nature of it, it's because we're a sentient being.
Right. Nathan knows what we're talking about. Nathan, have you got some observations about the sun changes and how that's affecting people?
Uh, not, not really. I mean, it seems that there's when you and I can talk about uneasiness, so to speak, that's going on in our heads, there does seem to be solar activity happening at the same time.
Yeah, there's definitely a correlation between the behavior of the sun and the planet Earth. There's a massive electromagnetic exchange between the Earth and the sun that happens regularly. It's one of the reasons we're in the Goldilocks zone, is that those other particle streams and those other energetic streams that come from the surface of the sun aren't necessarily bad, even though they can be very harmful. They're actually part of the energy that develops life. And we need certain types of radiation for the certain types of variety of life forms that we have on this planet. It's inescapable. But the sun's going into another type of cycle, and it's the same cycle of events that it goes through every 12,500 years. And Immanuel Velikovsky brought it to the table back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and then he was shut down by the government. A lot of other people came forward to talk about the nature of the sun. And there's people now like Wal Thornhill from the Thunderbolts program. There's Ben Davidson and Suspicious Observers. And all these guys are watching these things very closely. So Lowell and I don't need to talk about it like it's our show. We're not interested in producing a sun show. All I'm saying is that the behavior of the sun is directly related to the motion and the movement of Gaia and the way she goes forward. And it's going to be a cleansing. And that's really the best way to sort of look at things. I don't believe in promoting cataclysm, and I don't believe in promoting cataclysm theorem. I think that there's enough cataclysm just outside your front door, so you don't need to like go plug it in and turn it on for 2 or 3 hours and listen to people talking about doom and gloom. I think that when Lowell and I realized that you just vibrate at a higher frequency, you're not going to be affected by this shit. And it's really the way I feel is that if I just keep producing joy and love and being helpful and happy, then even if it does affect me in a negative way, then I'll accept that as part of my path, because I know that there will be a very select group of spiritual teachers and spiritual people who will be moved forward with Gaia to make sure that in the last vestiges of humanity, if there is a cataclysm, that there will be the right type of humans to remember the past and teach and protect the children of the future. I'm not concerned either way. And it's funny, Lowell and Nathan, you guys are working on this idea of in fact, Nathan and I are talking about building a couple of really nice places that are tucked away up in the mountains somewhere, growing our own food and different types of agricultural techniques that we can use at high elevations. And even if something goes down, like if we had a massive Carrington event and it shuts down all the grocery stores for the next 6 years, well, you just kind of have to deal with it, and you have to deal with it wherever you're at. And I think that that's also part of the mystery of the gift, is that there's a lot of people who deny themselves the knowledge of a better future through spiritual growth and spiritual understanding of who they are. And these people that just don't see it because it is against or is contrary to their own belief systems, because they're stuck in the programming loop from Big Brother, the people that have enslaved us. If you're stuck in that the slave belt, then you're not going to be able to break free. And when something really, really traumatic happens, like the micronova or a 9.0 earthquake in Los Angeles, heaven forbid, that's going to shut everything down. And you're just going to have to deal with it as it's dealt to you, right? You have to go with the flow. And if we are spiritual people that we think that we're here to help each other and be in service to others, I think that that's a good attitude to keep in the face of any adversity. I think that's something that all of us can think about and to develop as life tends to, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. And we can't just, guru our way or meditate our way through every circumstance in life. Sometimes it's just stand on your own 2 feet, get ready to do a little bare knuckle boxing, and you go forward and take the bull by the horn and do the best you can.
So David,
There's no,
David, hang on. Just sorry, cut in because
no, this is what it's all about. You cut in as much as you like, bro.
the just back to the magnetic field thing. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to, through simple deductive logic and reasoning, that I mean, there's always an ambient electromagnetic field around us. You can get an app on your phone to measure that, and it's like 40 all the time. It depends on where you're at, and so it's pretty safe to say that the sun gives off these, and you can help me. There's solar flares and there's CMEs, right? And two separate things. What is it?
A flare is a form of a coronal mass ejection.
Okay.
The other influence would be when you see those coronal holes, that's coronal wind. It takes longer to get here, but it still has a geomagnetic effect.
So there's got to be magnetic fields. I mean, everything's got to be affected by magnetic fields, especially I would think our brains, because there's got to be an electromagnetic field associated with our brains and our hearts. I think our heart gives off
big time
more powerful magnetic field than our brains do, and so maybe there's a correlation there when there's some sunspot activity and CMEs or something, and electromagnetic energy from the sun is affecting our hearts. Especially maybe, I'm just thinking about it now, the fact that our hearts seem to be very open. I know mine is, and I have to try to close my sensitivity in my heart in day-to-day life, because it's so open. Maybe that could explain why these things affect people like us more. I'm just assuming that your heart's open too, which it is. And one time we talked about something, when you have contacts with ETs, what it does to your heart, and how they know by looking at your chest. I don't know.
Well, it's no, Nathan, you've everything that you've just mentioned is perfect. It's all in line with each other. The electromagnetic perturbations that come from solar events affect your heart, affect the way your heart beats. They can jumpstart, they use electricity to jump your heart into a different rhythm. They can do that. People with pacemakers, look out. You really need to have a system in place for aftercare, because when the sun blast goes off, and when we do have a very powerful Carrington event, or we do have a very powerful micronova, that's a blast shield of unbelievable amounts of carbon that come from the sun, and they impact the earth as impactors, and it's not a good scenario. And if anybody wants to see the dynamics of that, they can go to another channel and read about it. But so the electromagnetosphere, the magnetosphere around the planet, it's weaker because of the solar wind, because of the position that the Earth is in. The Earth is vulnerable right now. We've covered the vulnerability of the planet, and part of the reason is it's moved out of the the Goldilocks zone within the other star bodies, and we're in the age of Aquarius now. So many of the planets and solar bodies that are far, far away are no longer blocking vibrations and blocking frequencies and blocking energies from different star systems. So the Earth is receiving lots of different types of impactors, and it's really important to be able to feel what's occurring as much as you can see and learn it. Because in the case where we study the sun, then yeah, we can use terrestrial physics, we can use the words of man, we can describe this dimension. But I hesitate to try and describe the next shift, because even though I've been told, point blank, I've just been told by Kim Jim that I have a role to play. It may not necessarily be the one that I think, but what he did for my heart was he enabled me to use it as a filter rather than something that I have to turn on and off. And I no longer try and control my heart. I let my heart love as much as it wants to. And it's almost like it's being a form of freedom. When you know what the role of your heart is, then let your heart be your heart. When you know what the role of your mind is, let your mind be your mind. And then your mind and your heart will go, oh, look, he's released control mechanisms over us and we can work together. And so Kim Jim always told me to try and connect my mind to my heart, or allow my heart into my mind, so that we can be of one mind. And when we're of one mind, we're of one thought. And when we're of one thought, we are in connection to the universe. Because
before we get too far away, I want to underscore the point that Nathan was making about we, in essence, are all electromagnetic beings. He's one of the first ones outside our circle I heard say that out loud, so that he understands the impulses we feel are because we're that.
oh yeah,
It's hard for us to comprehend this carbon-based body is electromagnetic. But if you can come to terms with that, now you can begin to see what we're talking about the sixth sense and what we feel. Because that's what we're beginning. That's the area that we're tiptoeing around and exploring, because we didn't understand this sixth sense until it was brought to our attention almost in smack your face fashion. None of us knew about any of this. We weren't prepped by the people before us for any of this. So when it was going to be brought to our attention, it was going to be just like this. Here is what is going on the planet, and the things that we were conditioned to understand and experience as humans. It's a very different world now, looking at it from this perspective, knowing that there are other changes coming like that are going to finally flip the things that we understand. And the more we can see this other perspective of the electromagnetic qualities of every sentient being, the more we can really embrace the idea that, yes, I am connected to all of that.
absolutely. You're grounded, you're an anchor, but you're also a skyship. You are definitely the conduit. You see, this is why I keep bringing in that word. We're meant to feel all of these things, but we're also meant to be part of them. And we are in a meat sack, your lovely corporeal self, your body. We are in it. That's the vessel that our souls reside within, in order to have all these experiences of love, all these experiences of pain, and there's no escaping it. So what we need to do is embrace it. When we have feelings and when we have suspicions or doubts, whether they're ourselves or other people, it's a knee-jerk reflex for people to immediately say, no, that's not me, and push those things away. But really, they are you, they are me, they're part of the whole collective, because all of humanity is connected. And so when the sun is changing, or when our Earth's magnetosphere changes, when, like Nathan had mentioned about the way it affects your sense of stability, yeah, it's like all these different huge amounts of animals that are being seen in migratory areas that other birds or other cetaceans or other animals would normally be seen. Now there's different types of birds showing up there, like birds from South America ending up in Nebraska, birds from Nebraska ending up in the North Pole. And so we're starting to see these strange migratory pattern shifts. And the same thing's happening with insects, and the same thing's happening with mammals. And the more the system's able to distract human beings, then we're not going to be joining those animals in their migratory path towards the new earth. And so you're going to start to see animals moving away from areas where there's going to be a massive electromagnetic discharge, and there's going to be massive earthquakes and tidal waves. You're going to start to see migratory movement away from the danger areas, and you're going to see migratory advancements into areas that we never thought we'd see that many animals, because the animals are being told by Gaia where to go for safety. So,
Well, so are we.
The animals.
We're
probably,
finally paying attention. I'm
Right.
sorry, Nate. Go ahead.
I think the animals they act more off of instinct, and they're more connected to nature and Gaia and the wild, and by far. I mean, that's where they live and operate. I think it's an instinctual thing for them. It's like they just know and they go. And here we are.
Hello, Nathan. That's a beautiful point. They are connected to Gaia. Robyn, welcome to
You
today's
gotta do
Star
something
Chat.
about your backlighting, my dear, because that overhead light prevents us from seeing your face very well.
Robyn,
Overhead
you
light.
cut your
That's
hair,
a thousand times better.
I'll
Thanks.
switch you around.
Are you
There you
hiding
go.
your hair, Robyn? What's going on?
I've got my tooth fairy hat on. I just walked in the door.
Looks like a Burger King hat. Oh, there we go.
It's got teeth on it.
Oh, that's right. The dental hygienist.
I just walked in the door. I'm gonna
Thanks.
grab a glass of water and join you guys.
Okay, great. Leave the speaker on. So we're just talking about patterns of change in the solar system, patterns of change in the sun, and also patterns of change in Gaia. Watching animals shift from their typical migratory points to other ones, sort of as a result of the changes that are upon us, and also the fact that there's been this wonderful awakening that Lowell brought up about humanity. And no, there wasn't anybody that showed us what to expect. There wasn't anybody to tell us that this was going to be the next spiritual growth development for humanity. Nobody handed this shit to me. We all woke up at the same time, right? 2016 was pivotal for every person on this planet, because more people became part of the ascension and the growth process in 2016 than ever at any point ever. And now these 2016s have moved up to, here we are, 2024. We've had a major shift in personal and interpersonal experiences that have changed all of us. Lowell went to Telos. I was taken away to Taurus. And then I've been kept in a continual loop of information with my friends from the Taurus Council. Nathan, what specific changes do you feel that came into your life around 2016 that have actually helped you observe and stay balanced within all the stuff that's going on right now that we are seeing now, that we're privy to see? Is there something in particular that came to you in 2016? Even though you've been in contact probably a lot longer than that.
Yeah, that's that question. I had to think about it. I mean, initially, I think about the time when I was brought to this other planet, and I'm walking around and looking and going, what? And they were showing me how kids were going to school, and they were happy, and they were singing songs, and there was grass, and there were redwood trees, and the sky was a deeper, darker blue. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. Kids were looking forward to go to learn. They were walking outside, connected more with nature. It was really that. I think that was around that time, and there's many times brought on. Crap, that was the one time I was brought to another planet, and I thought, and of course, that's something you don't ever forget. But I think I don't know for what reason I shared that.
There's a definite reason why you shared that, because that's a major vision. First of all, it's a major trip, and it's a major gift. So we're all being handed these amazing experiences for us to evaluate what we learned from our ancestors. You know, your ancestral information doesn't stop with your last memory of your grandparents or your great grandparents. Reach back into your Akashic record, that family that you've been in for 2,000, 5,000, 10 million years, that family you've been in has put an imprint into your very DNA and your chromosomes, like a light pattern in your own personal Akashic record. So the memories that you have are all being answered now. You become the zenith point for knowledge. Because the shift is here, your entire family's ancient DNA record has been
why?
stored, and you become the answer point, and they've all been waiting for you.
You know
All
why?
of those ancestral spirits. Boom.
You know why? Because the shift is hitting the fan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Robyn missed
And
that
then
one last time.
Yeah, Robyn, you missed out on that joke about the shift hitting the fan.
The shift is hitting the fan, Robyn.
Yeah. Take it away, Nathan.
Oh, I can't take it away, bro. I don't have to say. I'm just listening. It's a small fry.
Well, I don't know, man. You're there. Go ahead, take it away.
Well,
What's the next?
This is a great conversation we're having. It seems like we've really made some cool little correlations,
Right.
little epiphanies, with this, how we've been feeling. And we think more that it's with our minds, but I think we just made the connection that our hearts are more electromagnetic than our minds are. Our hearts generate more of an electromagnetic field than our minds do. So it only makes sense that our heart would be more sensitive to electromagnetic changes coming from the sun, our solar system, galaxy. It would only make sense that our hearts would be more sensitive to that, especially since we have had, it seems, when you have contact experiences, your heart really opens up. And you shared with me years ago, and we've talked about it before, but not recently, about how you see, in the chest of a person's heart, you can tell if they are, or they have had actual contact experience. They're actually,
there's a light. There's a light that we all produce. It's part of the great light that I was trying to describe at the very beginning of this. And we all are in possession of our higher spirit, because we are the higher spirit. All of us.
What you said, that Kim Jim, I haven't heard you say that before. It's the first time I've heard you say that. For him, to say, what exactly? How'd you put it? Let your heart guide your mind. What did you say? It was like 30 minutes ago. Your mind doesn't.
Your heart and your mind have to become one, so that the thoughts of your heart are transferred by your mind, and vice versa.
That was it. Yeah, your thoughts of your heart are transferred to your mind, and not like, I think that's a pretty cool thing to.
And that light
right there,
that light that comes from our crown chakra that goes deep into space, that light that they see, my guides have seen. And this is where we have such a beautiful, right now with Lowell and Robyn and Nathan and myself, we have 4 different unique conduit experiences that all say the same thing. We all follow universal law.
We all believe the same things.
We've had experiences.
We've had individual, separate experiences,
which have led to almost the same conclusion.
We all feel the same things. We all feel the same conclusion. We believe the same things. We have the same understanding, the same.
Right.
It really, maybe occasionally we'll use different verbiage. I like to joke around about things, but there's.
No kidding, Nathan.
I hear the Pleiadians. They like to joke around about things too. They call the reptilians.
Well, I don't know about that. This. I don't want to accuse the Pleiadians of being Bob Hope or.
Oh heck, I think they're my favorite.
Being a stand-up comedian, there's a lot of interesting stuff that comes in the form of humor, and humor is definitely an art form. I've seen Kim Jim express his sense of humor about humanity, and it's very subtle and it's extremely dry. So you really have to be tuned in carefully to not miss those little things that he brings to the table. Contact is occurring a lot, and there's lots of different types of contact that are going on. And for all of the people that wish that they could be on a ship or wish that they can be communicating with beings from other worlds, it's actually not that difficult. They're with you all the time as soon as you start thinking about them, because all of our life streams on this planet as a species, doesn't matter if you grew up in Nigeria, doesn't matter if you grew up in Cambodia, we're all connected. And at some point in the past, all of our families crossed paths in ancient trade routes, in ancient relationships, or in ancient lovemaking, just to become the diaspora of the creation of new species of human. All of us have mixed genes, and all of us have had divergent paths, but at some point in history, all of us have crossed paths before. That makes us one. It makes us one family. And because we're all the same species, though we may not behave like the same species, we're all the same species. And so we feel things collectively. There's a collective spirit. There's a collective energy source of divine love. And when we hurt ourselves, we hurt all of the humans in our species. When we don't allow ourselves the chance to reach up to the heavens to speak to divine beings or to holy people in the sky, we deny that in other human beings, you see. So it really hurts. Every time someone abuses drugs and dies from a drug overdose, that's bad for all of us. We should be feeling some compassion and sympathy for that. Every time somebody is in trouble, it affects all of us. And we need to make sure that as ambassadors for the future, that we give people an opportunity to see the divine light that exists within them. Because if we're not able to transfer or translate our divine experience into something that's helpful, then we're losing part of the mission that we're all supposed to be on, to be here for each other, because humans deserve to be their higher aspect at all times without fear of repercussions or with any regrets. Robyn, what do you think?
Oh man.
And there she is.
Sorry, we've got some clients that just walked in the shop here, so trying to be quiet.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
I'm just trying to be quiet for you guys. Yes, I totally agree, but I go a little I go a little deeper than that. As not just in species, into the etherical realms, not just in species, because we in my interpretation and my feeling into all of that, of being one loving, one light, and one essence of all that is, that we are one with the table, the grass, the essence, the air, the trees, the everything. We're not just one as humans, and all nationalities. We are one with all the animals. We are one with all the birds and the fish, and we are one with all the breathing of all.
Yes, yes, we are. Yes, we are. But
So we're one loving of all things through all galaxies and all dimensions and all realities. We're one, and when you go out into all essences of all things, that's the oneness of the unity of all things.
right.
It's more expansive than that we can't even understand, and trying to explain it into the mind of the man, you really can't. And if you pull it all into your heart and just feel the unity of who we are, and feel the divine, like you were saying, in the eyes of each other and the beauty of each other, and just want to be in the perfect loving and unity with each other, really that's all we need to do, and just feel each other and want to be one with each other.
Okay.
It
No,
sounds so simple, but it's really that
no,
simple.
It is simple. Thank you. Go ahead and mute so that we don't have to listen to your clients, and we'll see you in just a minute. So, what Robyn brought to the table right there was the oneness of all. And yeah, that's a deeper look. What I was talking about was, first of all, getting the oneness of all humans right. Okay, because all those other things fall into place normally. All right. I can communicate with birds and fish and tiny little insects. I love all animals. And so I have no problem protecting them and being kind to them and having relationships with every type of animal. Those things fall into place when you would admit that you have a divine heart and a divine spirit. Okay. Robyn's talking about the whole picture, but let's just bring this back to this picture because we're talking about human beings. And if you guys want to be able to have that deeper look and that deeper feeling of complete love, because Robyn is grounded without any ground. She penetrates the universe and the universe flows through her. That's a very, very high place to be. And you'll also, when you get to know Robyn, she's one of the most loving, forgiving people you'll ever meet. And she's just like your mother's sister and your best friend and everything. Robyn is just a superhuman. Those things come to all of us naturally, but first we have to let ourselves be guided by our higher voice, universal law, loving yourself, forgiving yourself, and forgiving and loving those around you. Because there are certain steps that will help you along the way. It's like you can't go from reading, A, B, C, D, E, F, G to Deepak Chopra's books. You just can't go there. Robyn's had a complete life experience that allows her to understand that completeness of being. What I'm talking about is the word of man. I'm talking about our terrestrial value systems, how we need to uncorrupt ourselves to allow ourselves to be able to share in the community of humankind so that we bring our brothers and sisters up and we belong to the same group of loving, forgiving humans. All of the rest of the stuff that Robyn's talking about are part of that process, but they're more visible after you've attained that process. So, the universe reveals things in little steps at a time. There's very few of us that are as advanced as Robyn. And I really this is why one of the reasons Robyn's such a major focus point in our show and in our life, because she really brings to the table that deeper wisdom and that deeper sense of existence. And God bless you, Robyn. Lowell, do you have any?
Can I simplify something a little bit more?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
For me, when I came into loving others, finally, was because I'd say I didn't used to. When I finally came into loving others was when I actually finally learned to love myself. And when we truly start to acknowledge that we are loving, when we finally learn to love ourselves completely and learn, recognize that, we chose our body, we chose our experiences, we chose our family, we chose our existence around us, you chose our experiences, and we start to love these experiences, love everything around us, and acknowledge everything that we've chosen to for our expansion, and truly love everything about us, every cell about us, every experience about us, and recognize the expansion that we've created in us, and appreciate all of that, truly loving everything about ourselves. That's when we start seeing the divine within ourselves and seeing the divine within others also, because there is no other. Because I am you and you are me, so that's when we start loving everything.
Thank you. That's a deeper perspective and a deeper look into what you just described. Thank you very much.
Thank you for not simplifying that. Yes.
No, it's actually, that was a more simple explanation of the first part that she was talking about, but it also is exactly what I was talking about. And self-love doesn't necessitate lighting candles, drawing a hot bath, eating a chocolate bar, and, getting close to your first chakra. It's, that's self-love in a way too, but self-love comes in the form of accepting everything that we are, and accepting those around us, and to be at peace by allowing others to have their own dignity and to have their own thoughts without jamming some empirical idea down their throat. We don't profess to know. Understand the humility that exists within your own consciousness so that you can give up to divine guidance. If you understand humility, then you can give yourself up to that kind of guidance. Don't try and force yourself into a control mechanism thought process. Don't decide what reality is. There isn't one. When I found out that time, light, gravity, and sound were bound by consciousness, not a particle, that's when I woke up 100%, because yeah, I am awake 100%. And yes, I am a force to be reckoned with, but I also suffer from human emotions because I'm a human being. And I have to allow myself the dignity to feel these feelings, because, you know, they changed a lot of my ability to feel things like other people. And I feel things that other people don't feel. And that interferes with my ability to process human behavioral patterns. It interferes with my ability to cognate and to get along with other people. I was talking to my friend today, and you know, sometimes it's just easier for me to go down to the beach and be quiet for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours and not see anybody, because then that helps me reconnect and then allows me the time to take a breath and say, okay, now you can be back for other people and be here for yourself and become the support network for everybody, because there's no, you know, there's no rules, regulations. It doesn't cause any kind of pain, and it doesn't take anything away. It's really easy to smile and be happy. And it's just a tragedy when we personally, on purpose, choose not to. Lowell, do you understand that beautiful light that shines from us can just come from pure helpfulness and just being happy?
I have an observation about what you had offered us. And there were almost contradictory ideas. So I want to tell you what my perspective and what I observed. Because you began by talking about how unfortunate it was for people to get into drugs and you know, live their lives that way. And I say to you, my friend, they're freaking sovereign beings and made up their own minds
No, no,
on
no,
what
no,
they're
no,
doing.
no,
Now,
no,
hold
no,
on.
no. No,
Oh,
I
let me
didn't say it was
finish.
unfortunate they got into drugs. I said it's unfortunate they suffer from drug abuse because it hurts all of us.
Right. Oh, hold on. Now,
Just a little
I'll let
difference,
you
but
respond when I'm finished. Let me
okay, go
finish my
ahead. Go
thought
ahead.
patterns here. Um, um, you started to talk about self-love again. And I know I punched a button the other day when I said we're to tend to our own flames. When you went down to the beach, that's exactly what you're doing. You're tending to your own flame. And so that method of self-love is how we feed ourselves with the next thought. Our next loving intent that we put out there to make ourselves feel good is, man, here's how we get it dialed in. Now, I don't want to leave out and appear to think that I don't have any thoughts for, you know, my humans that are going through these lousy things. I do, but it's been pointed out to me recently that there are a bunch of beings walking around the planet just like NPCs. And, you know, I don't have the time nor the inclination to spend my attention figuring out how they got here or what they're doing here. I am tending to my own flame and advising the rest of my friends to do the same thing. Because what we started talking about here today was contact, because it's happened to everybody here. We've left evidence galore behind for others to see it for themselves. We're trying to get the rest of you on board before you miss your opportunity. I'll leave it there.
Wow, you're so bang on. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm really, the only reason I jumped in is because I don't like being misquoted, but I do understand that you quoted me properly after I finished listening to you, so I'm sorry for interrupting.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Tending to your own flame, whatever you do to recharge your battery so that you could be part of the semblance of love. Because when we recognize that there's something wrong, or that we're feeling a lot, if there's a lot of deep sadness, or if there's a lot of pain in the world, we let it pass through us as best we can, but through the human experience, okay? Because I'm not a divine being, though I've been in presence of divine beings. I'm not a divine sacred spirit. I'm a happy, beautiful spirit. And I don't use the word divine attached to my spirit, but I'm happy if you want to. I'm happy if people want to say that we're all divine. I think that's lovely. But I know my spirit, and if I come back into another incarnation, I just hope I'm either the same or maybe a little bit closer to being a divine spirit, because I don't really believe that there are holy people on earth and working with humans. I don't believe that there are divine humans. I think that divine humans and holy humans, I don't like looking up, because I don't want to go, oh yeah, there's a God that I can pray to. That means that implies that there's something below me. And I don't like to do that. You see, to be in part of the whole process of existence in the sphere of the ultimate universe, it's all the same stuff. So, for me to say there's this and there's that is a form of control mechanism. And you guys know how I feel about control mechanisms. Don't create a scenario for yourself to start believing in, because then that's the only universe you're going to live within. Han Solo, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
All right.
Oh gosh, I like how Lowell was laughing earlier. I don't know. Things that pop into my head are, I guess there were saints that existed. It's got to be tough to be one of those. Got to be tough. I'm not perfect. There's no perfection here.
Mm-mm.
And I'm just hanging out with some friends. I'm
Right.
just hanging out with some friends.
Right. It's like, and that's just it. I mean,
That's all I'm doing.
God, it's like, who the hell wants to be perfect? What kind of shit is that? Part of the beauty and the joy of the human experience is to be able to, do whatever you want to do, be whoever you want to be, and not get hung out to dry for it, to always have someone who loves you, or someone who's brave enough to look at you and say, hey, I like what you said, but then I think this is kind of out of line. Yeah, this isn't a guru fest. You see, that's the other thing that really fries my pan, is these people that are trying to vibrate off to the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension when they have an obligation to the animals and to the children in this one. I'm a corporeal being, and I'm a man, and I'm trying to be the best man I can. I'm not going to, flitter away off into la la land, because that's what the spiritual thing should be. There is no thing that should be. It's
Well,
developing.
you're gonna make pies instead.
Right. I mean, I'm going to make pies and Strudelaten. Ja. Willkommen to meine Bäckerei. Ich bin Chefkoch und Bezieherin. Das Strudel ist fresca mit Zucker und Cinnamon. So, I think that everybody should have an equal opportunity to experience as much as they possibly can in this reality, because I believe that our reality is actually not much different to the realities of other species from other worlds. It's just a different type, but we all have a reality. And what's interesting,
if there's other species on other worlds riding dirt bikes, I'd like to check that out.
Well, there may be a type of dirt bike, Nathan, that's more like something out of Star Wars, okay?
Or a nice, a gas
Like
burning internal combustion engine. It's
like a speeder.
like
Yeah.
burnouts.
All right. So that's really great. That's really great. If
there's some
we
cool
want to
stuff
talk
on this
about the
planet.
motocross channel, or
And we got
the
rock and roll
4x4
music.
channel.
We got rock and roll music. We got surfing. We got snow skiing. We got a lot of really cool stuff on this planet. I'm sure there's a lot of planets.
There's a divergence between what we do and what they do, but I'm sure that they do. It doesn't have to be fucking better than what we're doing. All right.
I think
it doesn't have to be something more exciting or something busier. And I'm not talking about clubs and groups on other planets. What I'm just trying to say is, that
There's
we're
a lot
not,
to do here. There's a
we're
lot to do.
it's a beautiful life. And I don't think we're actually that much different than some of the other species that come to visit us. All right. They're different looking, but they also do things for fun. Now, I've never met a species from another world that didn't want to have some kind of fun, right? When I went to Broccoli, they were all holding hands and they were all being with each other. And I did see some people smiling and I did have joyful interactions. So our realities aren't much different. Now, whether or not Kim Jim is going to get in his 4x4 and go cruising across, the Baja race area, I don't see that happening really, Nathan. But it is one of the joys that we have in this reality. And, I don't see anybody doing that 100% of the time, but I can see how people want to. Just like I like to surf, but I don't surf all the time, because the waves aren't always great. I suppose I'd spend a lot more time in the ocean if it was perfect weather and perfect waves. So, whatever the experience is that finds joy in your life, whatever that you're doing that makes you happy, let's just make sure that it's something that is going to be an honest, open embracing of reality, to be an honest, open embracing of love and of life and
I
of,
think,
of sharing.
I think my reason for saying that, being like that, is because we have a lot to experience here. There's so much to do. There's so much to experience here. There seems like, you could just do anything and everything on this planet. You can be bad, you can be good, you can be Darth Vader, you can be the Sith Lord, or you could be, Obi-Wan Kenobi, or you could be, you could be. I'm just saying, there's it's like a total free will planet where we could actually experience anything in this short physical.
Yeah,
existence.
it is. But here's the thing: you could also be Pollyanna.
Yeah.
All right. And so, but what's the point?
I don't know who Pollyanna is, but yeah.
Well, okay. So all I'm saying is there's too many experiences to just be one thing or the other.
There's so much. It's awesome. We really are lucky. It's cool that we can be here. I mean, is it possible that there's a lot of unincarnated souls here that are wishing that they could be here during this time? Is it possible that there are hundreds of thousands of ETs cruising around the planet watching us because it's kind of an exciting show?
Sure.
I totally
Absolutely.
believe that.
Totally.
There's a lot of we have little free will and we have so many options. We can probably choose to experience just about anything.
Absolutely.
Here.
Absolutely.
Step back for a second with beings off planet that have a sense of dimensionality. And they've been watching this Earth experiment for a long time. They're either, I gotta believe that they're all cheering to see humanity finally get on its feet and see what it's really capable of accomplishing. Because we've been dicked with along the way. Now is finally the time when all of our DNA is coming online and the Earth is coming into her own. So if the conditions were ever going to be right for humanity to blossom and show the rest of the universe what they can do, it seems as though that door is just about to open.
And if they've ever tasted one of David's strudels, then they would know the joy of life because they're damn good. I like the strudels.
Well, that's like I've said before. I think I've told you, David, that one day I was sweeping and I caught a glimpse of a bean standing in my kitchen, and it was in a blue shroud, and I swear that bean was standing there eating popcorn.
He was just watching the show, Robyn,
just
and you
watching,
were the star.
Just checking out, what's going on in the shop.
What's going on with Robyn today?
I want to thank everybody for joining us for Star Chat this Thursday evening. I'm looking forward to another episode eventually. One of the things that I'd like to talk about before we sign off tonight is that I've spent some time talking about the things that I wanted to talk about. I brought up a lot of the programs and the mission points. these mission points were not to be taken lightly. If anybody doesn't want to do some of the things that we do, then of course you'll just sign into Star Chat or the Lowell's channel just for the wonderful conversations that we have. But I've spent some time talking about systems that are in place. I've spent some time talking about educational and tutorial programs that are available to you to open up your mind, open up your hearts, open up your eyes and see what's going on and to communicate with the stars above. It's entirely up to this audience and to these viewers if you want to activate any of the wisdom that we've tried to impart over Star Chat over the months, and that it's been such a pleasure to enjoy my time with all of you. If there's a couple of episodes missing, or if they all go missing, then you'll always be able to catch up with Dave Wallace on Lowell Johnson's Saturday morning podcast. And if there's another really important thing that comes up, then you can always catch that here in the spiritual fun playground of Star Chat. I want to thank Nathan, Robyn, and Lowell Johnson for their contributions to tonight's conversation. It's been lovely. And once again, my message to you is that I love you. I love you all very much, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.